Good evening, fellow moviegoers. If you are like me, you enjoy a good sci-fi film. Unfortunately, Star Wars Episode 4 is not that. This movie is a piece of garbage, and I will explain why. Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, was released on May 25th, 1977 by 20th Century Fox. A date which will forever live in infamy, much like 9/11 and Pearl Harbor, as days of American tragedy. In the opening scenes of the film, we see a small ship being chased by a much larger ship, which, by the way, are clearly models. Come on, people, this movie is garbage. Soon after, we're introduced to two staple characters in the Star Wars universe, a trash can and a Richard Simmons android. Oh, what is this? Look at those helmets. I didn't know the rebels employed rice farmers. After the rice farmers are killed, we're introduced to Princess Leia. Apparently the only goddamn female in the entire galaxy. How does this society reproduce people? Anyway, she gives the trash can the Death Star plans, which she stole from the Empire, and apparently stored on a goddamn floppy disk. Oh, this is ridiculous. To have us believe that a society with the technological capabilities to create humanoid robots, lightsabers, and giant planet-destroying space stations would use floppy disks as a mean of transmitting information is absurd. After this, Trash Can and Richard Simmons escape, and they land on the desert planet of Tatooine, which is literally just a desert. The entire planet. No water, no food, just sand. Yet it somehow still supports a substantially large human population, as well as many different indigenous creatures. Yeah. Moving on, the droids get captured by the Jawas, and they are then bought by our hero of the film, Luke Skywalker. Shortly after Luke buys the droids, Trash Can runs off to find Obi-Wan Kenobi, as he was instructed to do so by Princess Leia. Luke and android Richard Simmons go to find Trash Can, only to be mugged by Sand People. However, before the Sand People can steal Luke's wallet, he is saved by a seemingly robed homeless man screaming like a howler monkey having an orgasm. So the robed howler monkey actually ends up being Ben Kenobi, an old Jedi Master, who teaches Luke the ways of the Jedi and the Force. Afterwards, Luke returns home to find his aunt and uncle were killed by the Empire, and he takes it surprisingly well. Afterwards, Luke and company make their way to Mos Eisley, where they meet Han Solo and Chewbacca. A bunch of shit happens, then they leave. They're chased by the Empire, and they make their escape by jumping to light speed. Oh, that is just ridiculous! There's no way the Millennium Falcon would be able to move at that speed, when you consider that it would require 4.5 times 10 to the 17th joules of energy to move just 1 ton, 1/10 of the speed of light, to have us believe that a ship that must weigh 200-300 tons would be able to move at that speed is just ridiculous. After this, they fly around space for a while, and eventually they get sucked into the Death Star. While on the Death Star, they do a bunch of bullshit, and they save Princess Leia. After saving the princess, Ben Kenobi disables the tractor beam, allowing them to escape the Death Star. Oh, please, give me a break. Even the most novice of engineer would avoid such a critical design flaw as to put a key control panel over a bottomless pit. Come on, people, this movie is garbage. And then as our heroes are making their escape, we finally see the first epic confrontation of the film. The dreaded Sith Lord, Darth Vader, versus old, wise, Jedi Master, Obi-Wan Kenobi, who ends up just dying like a bitch. He gets cut in half, disappears for some reason, Luke cries, and then they leave. Shortly after our heroes escape the Death Star, we see the rebels gearing up to make their final assault on the Empire. Oh, this is just absurd. Look at those plans. What is that, 360p? I wouldn't even accept that resolution for a home video, let alone the blueprints to the largest weapon in the universe. After reviewing the Death Star blueprints that Princess Leia stole at the beginning of the film, we finally see the rebels take the offensive. And it's just 15 minutes of George Lucas playing with his goddamn action figures. At the end of the film, Luke Skywalker, guided by the ghost of old Ben Kenobi, lands the finishing blow on the Death Star and seal the victory for the rebels. In the final scenes of the film, we see Princess Leia award our heroes medals for their bravery in the war against the Empire. In summary, this movie is, unfortunately, more fiction than science. In other words, they should have called it Shit Wars because it is total shit! This movie is a waste of your time, people. I recommend never seeing it. I give it 0 stars. Join me next time as I review the other films in this classic Star Wars trilogy. Spoiler alert, they're all trash!